going to take a moment to expound on, by request, the video I did yesterday about Bitcoin. Somebody asked me to do a video on my thought on Bitcoin, and I tried my best to try and compress it down, but I want to expound a little bit on the idea of the importance of having a currency that is a fixed unit of measurement. So I'm going to use Newtonian physics to explain this to you. So give me a little latitude. I'm going to try and walk through this quickly. Gravity, regardless of who you are, is consistent for everybody, right? Is gravity just? Of course it is. If a toddler is, playing on a balcony and falls off, and then dies, the same thing can happen to an elderly person, right? So in other words, gravity makes no distinction between, somebody who's maybe older and somebody who's younger, or a puppy or a kitten or whatever. Gravity doesn't make any distinctions. It's the same for everybody, okay? The reason that that's actually a good thing is because then we know that gravity is just, right? It's not, it's not subject to the whims of somebody, So think about it this way. What if gravity had its own consciousness and can decide, oh no, there's a toddler, I better save the toddler. Then the question comes up, well, okay, gravity, why didn't you save all these other people that died? Why didn't you save all the, why this one person? Do you see the problem here? It becomes a dilemma that in physics, you want to have them be the same. So that way the rules apply to everybody, okay? So think of it like a video game in that regard, that you want the rules of the game to be the same for everyone all the time. And you don't want people changing the game because I'm losing, and so therefore I want to change the rules. You don't want to do that. That's like playing games with 6-year-old kids in the street. For anybody who's Gen X would know what I'm talking about. That, like you ever play with kids when you're younger, and then all of a sudden they keep changing the rules on you, like new rule. They're doing that because what happens is sooner or later someone gets good at playing the game under those rules, and so they change it. IRS does the same thing. They change the tax code all the time, and they do that because once you get used to how to play the game, then you start playing it really well, and once you start playing it really well, you start making money. Okay, so I'm going to bring you back into this now. So now we've gotten, and I've given you an example here. Bring you back here. I'm going to point this out, that when they keep changing the rules, it's just like whenever you hear the term overheated economy, the economy is going to overheat. That means poor people are paying off too much debt. That's exactly what that means. That's all that means. It means that poor people are paying their debts off because the dollar is a debt-based currency. It's based on debt. So if you pay off debt, remember, there's no money for the bankers and the government for you to pay off debt. There's no money in for them. It's great for you, but it's not good for them. Just like it's no good to win wars, it's no good to cure diseases, it's no good for you to own your property outright. It doesn't help them, it only helps you. It helps individual people. That's a good thing. So the dollar is not Newtonian physics. The dollar is not consistent. It is the most inconsistent currency there is. This is tricky to explain, but some people get it. Some people get it just right away. If they understand the gravity analogy, they get it immediately. They go like, oh my God, Bitcoin is like being at the birth of a new law of, say it with me, financial physics. Yes, it is like watching a law of physics being born right in front of you, because what it says is the rules are the same for everybody. You can fund whatever you want, you can lose it, you can burn it, you can decide to do whatever you want with it, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. No government, nothing, right? Just like gravity, if you jump out of a plane with no parachute, barring a miracle, barring the improbability drive, right? You're probably going to hit the pavement. You're probably going to die. So you're going to unalive. I guess that's the new lingo now. So I'm having trouble keeping up with everybody. So that's what happens. So when you create a system where the rules are the exact same for every single person, this is terrifying for people who may have been playing a game and then all of a sudden they realize, oh, there's a new game now. And now the new game says that the rules are going to be the same for everyone. That means the people who do the work, once again, this will harken back to my previous video yesterday or last night, the people who are doing the work are going to start absorbing money. They're going to start getting paid because that's how that works, right? When you're paid, why do you work? Remember, there's a video I did. Why do you work? You don't work for money. You work for that which the money will buy, right? So, and the reason it's called work is because if it wasn't work, it would be happy fun time, right? Well, I don't need to pay you to come over to my house, sit in the bean bags, and watch TV, eat a bag of chips, and order pizza, and drink beer. I don't need to pay you to do it. In fact, actually quite the opposite. You'll pay me for that privilege to sit there and watch my giant screen TV and in a bean bag, eat chips, and drink beer. So that's the difference. So the people who decide, you know what, I want to do some actual work, right? Like, I want to go and I want to learn a skill, whatever it is, okay? And I'm going to trade that skill. And it doesn't make a difference. You could be, even for people who are actors, right? And let's say you want to be an actor on TV or something, or not TV, the internet or something. You're doing something that's getting people entertainment, right? And they believe like, oh my gosh, okay, I really like this person. I'm going to support them. I'm going to buy their products, okay? Whatever that skill is, it doesn't make a difference. Not all of us have that kind of skill. Some of us have to learn, do other things. We do concrete work. We do roofing. We do, we do welding. We do all the other skills, all the stuff that, we empty your septic tanks. We do that kind of stuff because maybe we're not as talented, but we can do the work that nobody else wants to do. Okay, that's who builds all these big cities, all these giant cities, all this like that's all built by those invisible men, right? That's who builds all that stuff, all those invisible people that nobody thinks anything about until it's too late, right? And if all of a sudden you had to pay all those people in a currency that you couldn't then devalue. Right? You couldn't then change the laws of physics. You couldn't change the laws of gravity. All of a sudden, those people become fairly well off. They start, owning their property. They start owning, and they become, frankly, they become almost impossible to control. And that's the big problem. That's why it's hated so much, and that's why there's so much endless amounts of propaganda about the idea of having a fixed currency. No different than Solon, the Athenian philosopher Solon. He envisioned the idea of a fixed body of laws that applied to everybody, right? His idea was to try and create sort of a law of physics that applied to everybody, that would be enforced somehow by the state, okay? Well, the Greeks never adopted that. They didn't adopt the republic idea. Instead, the Romans did. The Romans adopted that. And it worked really well. And look how quickly Rome became this vast empire. And of course, Rome, once again, lost sight of everything, and they became, late stage U.S. I hate to say it that way, but it's really kind of the truth. If you think about it in reverse order, but it's pretty much the same thing. And they had forgotten why it was that they had what it was that gave them all that prosperity. And what gave them all that prosperity was the fact that they weren't destroying the currency, at least in the very beginning. It wasn't until later when they started manipulating the currencies and everything. In fact, actually, your Christ, for example, Christ said the same thing. He says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar. Yeah, he was talking about giving back Caesar worthless garbage coins, the coins that weren't worth anything. That's what he was telling people. He's like, yeah, it's got a picture of Caesar on it. There's no gold in it, so give it back to the guy. It's not worth anything to me. Who cares? It's not worth anything to the temple. Right, that's what Christ was talking about. I said this is, by the way, somebody asked me if I was like a Christian fundamentalist or something. No, I'm actually an atheist, but I know history. I can still read, right? I still understand, for lack of a better term, if you want to call it pop culture. I do know what the hell is going on out here. So, but that's the deal. So and it's the same, by the way. In case you were wondering, that's why Christ also, turned over the tables and was, and whipped the piss out of the money changers. It was because they were demanding the currency that actually had gold in it, and they were exchanging it for the worthless currency. And what they were doing was they were ripping the people off in the name of God for whatever that's worth. That's actually a bad thing to do, as I understand it. He has a bit of a temper, if you believe the lore. So anyway, that's it. I hope that explained it a bit better.